Good afternoon and welcome to IBAC's Law Week webinar on the topic of who assesses the integrity of Victoria Police. My name is Peter Morris. I'm the Executive Director of Operations here at IBAC. I joined IBAC in October last year, and over the previous 30 years I have delivered investigation services in a range of professional services firms and also with the Australian Federal Police. Today we are joined by Deputy Commissioner Kylie Kilgour, who holds the Victoria Police portfolio, and also Christine Stafford, Team Leader of the Investigations Unit. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are presenting from the lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I wish to acknowledge them as the traditional owners. I would also like to acknowledge traditional owners of the lands of where you are located. I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. Just to let you know that there will be a recording of the webinar available on the IBAC website in the coming weeks as well. So for those who are on mobile devices, if you'd like to turn live transcription on, you can do so by clicking on closed caption and then live transcript in the meeting controls at the bottom of your desktop. Then select show subtitle. If you're on a mobile phone, you can turn the captions on in the Zoom app. So to do that, you go to the settings, tap meeting, turn on closed captions. So to remind everyone, there will also be an opportunity for you to ask questions during an audience Q&A session in the second half of this webinar. But rather than just wait, I encourage you to submit any comments and questions you have throughout today's event by using the Q&A function, which you will see at the bottom of your screen. So please be aware in relation to those questions that we are not able to answer questions about ongoing investigations or specific complaints. So again, please feel free to put your questions in as we proceed. If you experience any technical difficulties, please ensure that you have downloaded the latest version of Zoom. So on today's topics, we will discuss IBAC and its jurisdiction, IBAC's police oversight role. We'll have an overview of police oversight work completed by IBAC in 2021. We'll talk about what IBAC can investigate and also the life cycle of a complaint and how you can report police misconduct. So as I mentioned, this will be followed by a Q&A session, and again, a reminder to put those questions through as we proceed. So I'd now like to hand you over to our first speaker, Deputy Commissioner Kylie Kilgour, to provide you an overview of IBAC's role and our police oversight function. Welcome, Kylie.
Thanks very much, Peter. And happy Law Week 2022, everybody. It's so exciting to be able to join you, even though it's virtual, but it's a very exciting opportunity to talk to you today about IBAC's police oversight function. I've been a Deputy Commissioner at IBAC since January 2021. And for the 2 years prior to that, I was the Chief Executive Officer of the Royal Commission into the Management of Police Informants, which is also known by some as the Lawyer X Royal Commission. I've also been a lawyer in community legal centres in New South Wales, legal aid in the UK, and a public servant in the Victorian Department of Justice and Community Safety. So who are IBAC? We are Victoria's Anti-Corruption Commission. Our vision is to build a corruption-resistant Victoria. Our purpose is to prevent and expose public sector corruption and police misconduct. And our functions are wide-ranging. They are to investigate and expose serious corrupt conduct and police misconduct. We educate the public sector and the community about the impacts of corruption and police misconduct, and we aim to build public sector capacity to prevent it from occurring. It's important to note we are independent of government and are accountable to the people of Victoria through the Victorian Parliament. Our Commissioner, the Honourable Robert Redlich QC, is formerly a Judge of the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal. He's an independent officer of the Parliament, and he's responsible for the strategic leadership of IBAC. IBAC has around 250 staff. They come from a diverse range of professional backgrounds, such as investigations, the legal profession, forensic accounting, information technology, education, and administration. So our jurisdiction extends across the whole of the Victorian public sector. It's a very large group of organisations. It includes members of Parliament, the judiciary, the police, and state and local government. This adds up to around 300,000 Victorian public sector workers in around 3,500 organisations. And if you look at Victoria Police alone, that's about 18,000 employees. IBAC is the independent oversight body for Victoria Police. Some of the ways we achieve that include receiving and assessing complaints and notifications about corrupt conduct and police misconduct. We can conduct investigations about police misconduct. We also review investigations of matters that we have referred to Victoria Police, and that's to ensure that those investigations were done properly. We also check that police comply with important laws such as sex offender registration, witness protection, DNA sampling, and firearm prohibition orders. I'll just turn now to IBAC's annual plan for 2021-2022, which outlines our strategic priorities and focus areas. These focus areas have been informed by our strategic intelligence assessments, complaints and notifications data, operational intelligence, and importantly, stakeholder consultation. You'll see that the 2021-2022 annual plan highlights 6 strategic areas, 3 of which relate to police. So you'll see there high-risk police units, divisions and regions, high-risk public sector agencies, major infrastructure projects, undue influence on decision-making in the public sector, and police use of force on people at risk. And finally, but very importantly, police's responses to police family violence incidents. I'm now going to pass you to Christine, one of our experienced investigators, to explain how IBAC complaints processes and investigations work.
Thanks, Kylie. My name is Christine Stafford, as Kylie said. I'm one of the team leaders here at IBAC. I've been here for 5 years, if my COVID timeline's correct. And prior to that, I was with Victoria Police for approximately 17 years. I'm going to run you through some of the complaint processes and investigations here at IBAC. So IBAC can receive complaints about and investigate the conduct of Victorian police officers and recruits, protective service officers, known as PSOs, and public custody officers, public service employees who assist in the administration of police. Police misconduct includes Victorian police personnel failing or refusing to perform their duties, behaving disgracefully or improperly, on or off duty, or discrediting Victoria Police or its personnel. In 2021, IBAC received just under 1,900 complaints and notifications about Victoria Police personnel. This represented 55% of all complaints received by IBAC. When IBAC receives a complaint, we notify the person making the complaint that we have received it. We may also contact them for more information to help us assess the allegations in the complaint and to inform them of our decision. We will then assess each complaint to identify the allegations in the complaint based on a number of things. based on the information provided or relevant information available to us that could connect to the complaint. An assessment is not an investigation into the complaint. An assessment is IBAC's consideration of that information we received. We will notify the person who made the complaint of the outcome of their complaint in writing, normally within 45 days. Some of the factors that we take into consideration when deciding to investigate a complaint can include, one of the most obvious ones, is it within our jurisdiction? Also, is there reasonable evidence of serious or systemic corruption or police misconduct? So after we've received it as a complaint, there are different kinds of investigations that IBAC can do. Preliminary inquiries are typically a look into conduct that doesn't necessarily hit the threshold of a full investigation. Prelims, as we call them, have limited powers because they are only an inquiry. An investigation can go in many directions. However, the traditional phases are covert and overt. The covert phase is when we use our powers or capabilities to capture conduct in real time. And you may have seen some of that when we have our public examinations or our prosecution in evidence. The overt phase, as it says, is when we'll start engaging directly with people of interest, with witnesses, attending scenes, or obtaining information, whether that's voluntarily or through search warrants. These types of techniques and powers are what traditional law enforcement agencies utilise, and IBAC is no different in that regard. IBAC also, though, has a suite of coercive powers, such as our examinations to either interview a person or compel the production of documents or items. And then in the police space, we also have the coercive discipline interview. In order to expose corruption or misconduct, IBAC may need to utilise all or some of these powers to get to the heart of what has occurred and why. It's important to know that an investigation is not only focused on understanding what has happened, but also how and why it has occurred. We look at all contributing factors, such as the supervision that someone was under, the experience of the people involved, training, policy and procedures to help us assist formulate an appropriate recommendations that will help make a particular work group or unit more corruption resistant into the future. IBAC also conducts own motion investigations when we have investigations without receiving any notification or a complaint. An own motion investigation can come from information provided to us anonymously or by our intelligence sources. IBAC must conduct own motion investigations where there is a death or a serious injury after contact with police. Some of the stats for 2021, there were 13 preliminary inquiries and investigations commenced. 6 preliminary inquiries and investigations commenced were own motion. 14 preliminary inquiries and investigations were in progress. And in that time, 6 preliminary inquiries and investigations were finalised. I'll now hand you back to Peter to tell you a little bit about the prosecution and the recommendations we make as a result of those investigations.
Great, thanks Christine. So a number of the IBAC investigations conducted in 2021 resulted in the prosecution of police officers for criminal offences. So I'll give you some examples. A Victoria police officer was charged in May 2021 with recklessly causing injury and common assault after an investigation into allegations of misconduct, including excessive force during the arrest of a vulnerable young man. In another matter, 3 Victoria police officers were charged in June 2021 with recklessly causing serious injury after an investigation into an incident where a man had received a serious injury during his arrest. And also a former Victoria police officer was sentenced in August 2021 following an investigation into the assault and intentionally causing injury of a 15-year-old boy. So after IBAC completes an investigation, a review or a report, we make a series of recommendations to Victoria Police. So these recommendations aim to strengthen Victoria Police's policies and their procedures to address systemic police misconduct issues and also risks, and also to improve its conduct of internal investigations. So some of the things from 2021, there were 10 recommendations to Victoria Police under the IBAC Act. 13 recommendations this year or from previous years were implemented by Victoria Police, and 21 recommendations are being monitored but are yet to be fully implemented by Victoria Police. So it's important to note that anyone can make a report to IBAC. This can be done in writing or by going to the IBAC website and submitting a complaints form. You can find this at our web address, which is now listed on your screen. And if you need help with making your complaint, you can also call the number on your screen there, 1300 735 135. So IBAC will this month launch a public campaign to let the community know more about our police oversight role. So Christine, I'm going to pass back to you to tell us a little bit more about this campaign.
No problem. IBAC recognises the challenges that people face making a complaint about suspected police misconduct. Whether these challenges arise from social, economic or cultural factors, or the fear of speaking out. However, we do want Victorians to know that all information provided to IBAC will help us prevent and expose police misconduct effectively. Today we are pleased for you to preview IBAC's new public awareness campaign launching next week. The campaign is titled, "You Have the Right to Not Remain Silent," and it aims to raise awareness of IBAC's role to oversight Victoria Police and empower all Victorians to report suspected serious misconduct or provide information about matters anonymously. We want to reach Victorians that may not be familiar with IBAC or know about police oversight role. So you will see the campaign on social media, on radio, in newspapers, in parts of regional Victoria, and on multicultural radio stations. We'll provide you a link to download the campaign once it's live so that you can share it within your own networks. We'll play the video now.
You have the right to not remain silent. You have the right to be treated fairly by police. You have the right to not be discriminated against because of your race, because of your sexuality. You have the right to speak out. You have the right to report anything that police do to deny your rights. Call IBAC or visit our website to safely report police misconduct or provide information anonymously.
Section. So during these questions, we'll aim to answer as many as we can. So thank you for those who submitted the questions today and those who submitted them prior to the event. So we'll walk through each of those and we'll have Kylie and Christine. So our first question for today is, what is one thing we can all do now to build up our cultures of integrity at Victoria Police and other organisations alike?
I think I'll volunteer to take that question, Peter.
You can take that one.
I think it's really important that people report misconduct to IBAC. So whether that is members of the public who have interactions with the police, but also the police themselves. As I often say when I do police education, it's really important that we report early and we report often. And I think that's the best way that we can tackle and ensure the integrity of Victoria Police.
Mm-hmm. Great. And there are a few, so again, we'll try to get through all of these in time. Our second question we've got is, can an IBAC investigation result in possible charges being examined by a court? And second part, and is this determined by the Department of Public Prosecutions?
So, well, there is a process where IBAC, we can lay charges ourselves, but we do consult very carefully with the Director of Public Prosecutions in the process of bringing any prosecution. In some circumstances, the Director of Public Prosecutions actually takes over mostly the more serious charges the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Office of Public Prosecutions will run those matters, and we will tend to do the more minor matters, so things perhaps in the Magistrates Court level. But yes, absolutely, there are many investigations, both in the police space but also in the public sector space, that you'll see end up in prosecution in our court system.
Right. Next question. Does the IBAC oversight role include any evaluation or contribution to training of police recruits or police officers? So I think both will have a contribution to make on there.
Yeah, well, both Christine and I actually go out and we talk to police officers all the time. Police now get an IBAC session when they are at the academy. So every squad basically gets a visit from someone like Christine or other investigators here at IBAC, as well as other people in other sections of the organisation. I also go out to train all new detectives as they're going through detective training school. We particularly go out and talk to them about the rules in the criminal justice system and how they're linked to integrity. We also do training for people who are going through their promotional pathways. So, for example, when people are becoming sergeants, when people are becoming inspectors, when they become superintendents, I also go out and co-present with the Assistant Commissioner for Professional Standards Command to really drive home the messages around the senior leadership expectations around, if you're in those senior positions, the duties that you have to improve and keep on top of good ethical culture of the police that you're responsible for supervising.
Right. So I might add a little bit.
And Christine, do you want to talk about the recruits?
Well, the recruit training that we we go and speak to them and provide some real life examples of things that they can face in the job coming up, and how IBAC plays a role throughout their career, and whether that's reporting to us as another avenue of any of them reporting amongst themselves. But probably more importantly, part of the question was about, do we evaluate their training? That is key in the investigation. That is exactly the framework that we hold them accountable to as we investigate. So when we talk about the recommendations, as we did earlier, that's exactly the point. That's the why. How did this happen? Was the training inadequate? Was it scheduled enough? Were there gaps in their training? So that aspect is very much key to what we do in the investigation as to the why.
Yeah, and we'll often be inputting, so from investigations that we've undertaken, we'll be inputting to the police education programs that police themselves are also delivering. So, for example, if it's about conflict of interest, or it could be about use of force, or it could be about how they understand, tricky legal concepts like legal professional privilege, and witness statement taking practices, we'll be inputting to all of that education work that Victoria Police undertakes itself as well.
Great, thanks. The next question is somewhat around a yes-no answer, but I'm going to let you freewheel a little bit about this, but I'll read the question out directly anyway. Does IBAC agree that all but the most minor police complaints should be investigated by an independent body? Carly?
Yes, so that is an interesting question. So the current model that we have in Victoria is it's called a mixed civilian model, where IBAC has a role in being notified about everything that is going on, but we are able to refer matters back to Victoria Police for them to investigate. I will say this applies across the public sector as well, so it's not just in the Victoria Police space, it's across all of our jurisdiction. IBAC is, we get a fairly good amount of public funding to perform the functions that we do, but like all public bodies, we are resource constrained, and government is resource constrained with respect to how much funding they are able to give us, which means that we do have to have cut-off points about what we're investigating and what's going back to Victoria Police to investigate. What I would say about currently, that all the complaints that come in, they come up to myself and the other deputy commissioners for assessment. In the vast majority of cases, the referrals that we're making back to Victoria Police are at the more minor end of the misconduct scale. If we do see serious misconduct, so if it is a serious use of force issue, particularly if it's about a vulnerable person, or serious corrupt conduct. So, for example, the public hearings we've just been doing in a job that we call Operation Breadbow, which is about a detective sergeant who was involved in civil debt collection whilst on duty as a police officer. So that sort of serious misconduct, when that comes to IBAC's attention, that's the sort of stuff that we grab and we run the investigations on. So it's not a simple yes, no answer, but I hope that gives you some context around how it is that IBAC makes the choices that it has to make about what we're investigating and what we're referring back to Victoria Police.
Great. Thanks, Carly. Moving on to the next one for you, Christine, I think here. What, broadly speaking, are the qualifications of the investigators at IBAC?
So typically most of our investigators come from ex-law enforcement, and that could be from federal or state, from anywhere in Australia. We get many people wanting to return home to Melbourne, which is lovely. But we also have forensic accountants and intelligence analysts who are qualified in their fields.
Right. So a fairly broad church.
Very much so.
And I would also add, we have a legal team here as well who are also
Yes.
an integral part of the investigation space, because they help us to make sure that we do things lawfully.
Yes.
And they will also help us with, running down lines of inquiry on occasion as well. And the deputy commissioners as well. We come from, two of us are legally qualified, one of us is not. So it's a very multidisciplinary approach that we take here at IBAC to our investigations work.
Great. Thank you. Carly, this one might be for you. Are conflict of interest provisions being revised?
So, yes, this might be a reflection of some commentary that was in the media last week, where Chief Commissioner Shane Patton was being interviewed by an ABC journalist about a matter involving a police officer who had some inappropriate relationships with a vulnerable, one or two, I can't remember. Anyway, a couple of vulnerable women. And yes, absolutely, he referred to the work that's been going on between IBAC and Victoria Police with respect to their conflict of interest policy. We have been working hard with Victoria Police on revisions to that policy, and my understanding is that it's actually just about to be signed off, so there will be a new conflict of interest policy promulgated shortly with Victoria Police, and I think that will be a really welcome piece of work to really reinforce to the police how important it is that they manage not only actual conflicts of interest, but also the perceptions of conflict of interest.
Great, thanks, Carly. Our next question, both to comment really from different angles. With IBAC based in Melbourne, how does IBAC engage with regional and rural Victorians? Carly, you want to start?
So, like Christine just showcased, we've got this new regional campaign that's launching next week. And so really that is the beginning of us getting out and about after a couple of years of being locked in our homes, as well as locked in Melbourne due to COVID. But absolutely you'll see a lot more advertising out in regional Victoria. On occasions, our investigations in the police space in particular are out in regional locations. So we will have investigators out doing things in regional Victoria right now. You just won't know that we're there. And we also are available to provide education out at the regional level to police as well. So you'll also see us, or you might not see us, but I can assure you that IBAC is out and about in regional Victoria talking to Victorian police all over the state.
So with that in mind, Christine, we're there, but you may not know it. Do you want to add some extra pieces
I think
around
Kylie's
that?
covered that sufficiently. We go where the work is. So
Indeed.
yeah.
Okay, thanks. Next question. Should a matter reach the threshold for IBAC to investigate, who sets the boundaries for that investigation? So it might good start with you,
I think
Carly.
that's a perfect question for Christine,
Ooh,
because
okay.
she has got so much experience in scoping investigations.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, well, scoping an investigation is very important because it gives you good direction, and it's something that I guess the organisation will decide on what are the key areas that we want to expose. So really it's call it a group decision. Everyone at IBAC will feed into that, and lots of IBAC strategic plans can feed into that as well. So there's not one formula for it. Everything is dictated by what information has come in. But we can't chase every rabbit down every hole, so it's important that you focus your resources to get the best effect out of our investigations.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And a good point to make, Christine. It's not one single person's view about what should occur here. There's a broad team that comes to play.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think as we mentioned in the presentation as well, that partly what we're so we'll be looking at the what happened, but we're also looking at the how and the why and how do we prevent it into the future. So pretty much every investigation that I've seen scoped in the time that I've been here will start with the allegations, but there'll always be a piece about, well, what are the systemic learnings? What's the education prevention piece that this investigation can contribute to improving integrity in Victoria Police, but also across the public sector? And I think that is actually the really important function that IBAC performs.
And it can change. That's not assuming that we have one scope at the start and that's it. Depending on what information comes to us will dictate whether the scope changes, whether it expands or whether a new investigation falls out of it.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, good points. Next question. We have a question about the review process of Victoria Police investigations of alleged misconduct referred from IBAC. So the question there is, how does this review process work? How do you address independence issues around Victoria Police investigating themselves internally?
So I'll try and tackle that. But one thing I would say is actually we are in the process of developing a new community education tool about our reviews process that's going to be released shortly. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out for that coming out on our website, because we're doing a kind of, like a half-hour long type explanation piece, which is more than I've got time for today. So I'm going to do it very quickly and point you to that resource into the future. But broadly speaking, what happens is when we make, when an assessment comes in and we decide, is it going to be dismissed, referred or investigated? When we make the decision to refer to Victoria Police, we are also turning our minds to, is this a matter that we should bring back in for review? And often what I'll be looking at is our strategic focus areas, for example, that I mentioned during the presentation. So if it's a matter that's about excessive use of force against a vulnerable person and we've referred it to Victoria Police to investigate, I will say that's a matter that I want to review because I want to check that Victoria Police have done it properly. At the moment, we're reviewing between about sort of 12 to 15% of the matters that we refer, which gives us a pretty good statistically, valid sample of the number of investigations that are going backwards and forwards between us. What I can say is that currently between 85 to 90% of those reviews, we are able to tick them off as that they are adequate investigations. There's a small number that's sort of 10 to 15% where we will identify deficiencies in the way that Victoria Police have conducted that investigation, and that will result in us going back to Victoria Police and saying that wasn't good enough and you need to do the following actions to correct it. In some circumstances, that can be as strong as saying you need to redo that investigation. In some cases, we will also say we're so dissatisfied with how you conducted that investigation, IBAC is now going to take it on and we're going to do it ourselves because we've been very dissatisfied with how Victoria Police have conducted it. That's a very rare occasion, but it has happened. Sometimes it's recommendations about policy and practice change. So, for example, if I think a few years ago, prior to me coming to IBAC, but a few years ago, IBAC were identifying that conflicts of interest in internal investigations were not being accurately identified and not being well managed. And we introduced a whole new procedure that now when an internal investigation goes out to Victoria Police, the first step an investigator must undertake is to think about, do I have a conflict in doing this internal investigation? And if the answer to that is yes, they're off the investigation. It needs to be given to an independent officer who has no actual or perceived conflict of interest. So that's been a massive change that IBAC has introduced to the way that Victoria Police think about who is okay to do an internal investigation. Once those internal investigations are undertaken and the matter comes into us, we have a review team who basically have a checklist of things that they're looking for in the investigation file. And like I said, there's a resource that we're putting out shortly about reviews, so I won't go over all of that. But there's a pretty exhaustive list of things that we're checking for. And if there's any deficiencies with respect to that checklist that we're going through, that's when we'll be saying that's an inadequate internal investigation and you need to fix it up. So I think I'll stop that discussion there, because reviews is something I'm very passionate about and I could go on about for hours and hours and hours. But what I will say is it's a really important part of our toolkit in circumstances where we are resource constrained and we cannot investigate every matter that gets referred or gets brought to our attention as much as we would like to.
Right, thanks, Carly. And as I look through a couple of the questions, you may have covered off on a couple of the others in there as well. So, and noting we've only got a few minutes left there. Last question there, I think maybe if Victoria Police are still investigating approximately 98% of complaints against police, how can IBAC truly be an independent and external oversight agency?
So I think conceptually we have to separate the two things. So we are not Victoria Police. IBAC we are an independent statutory authority. We report directly to the Parliament. We don't, Victoria Police are not part of us. Victoria Police employment arrangements are very separate to us. So that's really how the independence and the externality of our oversight can be thought of. Like I said before, we are resource constrained, and so we can't investigate every single matter, whether that's in police or also more broadly across the public sector. The design of the oversight system here, as well as in many other jurisdictions, relies on oversight agencies often zeroing in on the most serious and systemic corruption or misconduct issues for their investigative effort, and relies on referring other investigations to agencies themselves. Like I said, things like doing our reviews as well as our police education work are also really important mechanisms through which we deliver police oversight. So don't just zero in on the number of investigations that we do. Look at the full spectrum of the work that IBAC does.
Great, thanks. And I think we've got time for one last question there. This is a fairly broad one. In an ideal world, what do you think good police oversight looks like? So maybe we start with you, Kylie, and flip to Christine.
Well, like I've said during this session, I think the prevention and education space, so the work that we do, where we improve Victoria Police's policies and practices so that we can get ahead of the game with them around them making sure that they have ethical leadership, they have good culture, they're aware of the police misconduct risks that are just inherent in the policing world all over the place, and they have a workforce who are willing to speak up and speak out and report misconduct when it occurs, as well as a very healthy Victorian public who feel confident and safe about reporting police misconduct when it does happen, because unfortunately bad things do happen. I think that is what good police oversight looks like.
Right. And Christine, with a lens of an investigator and also experience in Victoria Police, what else do you think?
Well, I think when doing the actual oversight, the best scenario is that you have, clear communication, transparency with the investigators if it's in real time, and then resourced to undertake any post review of an investigation. But yeah, it's pretty much what Kylie said. The public are our eyes and ears and are our best resource.
Great. Okay. So I think we've got just a smidgen of time left. Any other closing comments from either of you before we wrap up?
I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for your interest in IBAC's police oversight role. And if you've got more questions, please feel free to send them in and we'll see what we can do about answering them. And
Right.
Thanks very much for coming along to our session.
Yes, indeed. So thank you all for your time today. To help us improve and to let us know what other topics you would like to hear about, please fill out a short survey. So you can do this by scanning the QR code on your screen or by filling out a survey when this session ends. So again, we really appreciate the feedback. So please put that through. And again, I'd like to thank you all for your attendance, the questions in particular, those coming in advance and those coming in through the session. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks to both Kylie and Christine, and also to our team out the back who helped to make this work seamlessly.